Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Whatever happened to movies and TV? That's the question I'm asking you today. Answer in the comments. You can follow me on X Twitter at Movies TV Mad and on Instagram and Threads at Movies TV Mad X. Whatever happened to movies and television? Going to watch a movie when I was growing up, but not just when I was growing up, the 80s, the 90s, even the early noughties, going to watch a movie was something special. It was an event. And television was something special. It was an event. Every Wednesday, 10 past 8, me, my brother, who's only 11 months younger than me, my mum and dad, would sit on the sofa together, all snuggled up, to watch the next exciting episode of Dallas or Dynasty or Knots Landing or even something like Heart to Heart, if you remember that show. All those great shows, Murder, She Wrote. It was special to watch entertainment back then. It's not special to watch entertainment anymore. I remember the exciting days of watching the OC or watching Lost or Smallville or 24 or Prison Break. But it's not special to watch television or film. It's the next series. It's the next Game of Thrones spin-off. It's the next MCU movie. You know, the DCU, yes, we're getting Superman, then it'll be the next movie and the next movie. They're just other movies. Because in the old days, people who made entertainment put their hearts and souls, talents and personality into what they were making. They knew if they cared enough and they put everything into a film or an episode of TV, they would get the ratings. They would get the huge box office. These days, they're so lazy and creatively bankrupt, they're on the blag. They're trying to con you that what they're selling you is the bestest thing ever when it's not, without putting their hearts and souls into what they're making. Because most people, not all, making entertainment today don't care about the art form. And this is what's gone wrong. When you drive out all the people who understand this industry, who love this industry, and you replace them with activists, what do you think's going to happen? Look at all the crappy movies you're being forced to go and see. Personally, I barely watch any new material anymore. There used to be a romance about entertainment. It was a family affair. I think streaming took that away, but I miss appointment television. It's still kind of there, but most shows today you can watch on the iPlayer or ITVX or Max or Netflix or whatever. It's not the same. But the truth is the quality of television isn't there anymore. Oh yeah, the production values are there. You can see they've spent money, but the characters, the storytelling is gone because from reducing the amount of episodes of television they put out every season, they squashed down the ability to tell a great story and develop a great character. Penguin is a great example of this. Penguin set up these flashbacks that basically Christine Millotti's character in Penguin had a kind of trust and a friendship when he was her chauffeur. Now, if you remember in Smallville, and I said this during my reviews, they spent 7 years developing a friendship between Clark Kent and Lex Luthor, and by season 7 we see how that relationship falls apart. It was compelling, it was beautiful. I'll never forget the episode Descent, finally seeing Lex murder his own father. And the finale of the season 7 finale, seeing Lex finally find the Fortress of Solitude and face off against Clark. But it was the build-up. It was the ability of having 20 plus episodes a season, and having prolonged series TV that made it work. These days, you don't have extended TV shows mostly, especially Netflix. They don't keep TV shows going. they don't really have showrunners on streaming anymore. Marvel Studios have just started having showrunners. Imagine not having a television series with a series producer. Imagine that, how stupid they are today. And they are stupid because the biz isn't in their heart. It isn't in their soul. And as a consumer, what do we do? It's interesting, isn't it? Do you remember the fallout over that Fall Guy movie? Was it out last year? They put a lot of money into it. The Fall Guy was a TV show. So they made that a great TV show starring the great Lee Majors into a movie. And it wasn't a great movie. People didn't go and see it. And the uproar from the industry, from Access Media, I'd never seen anything like it in my life. They were kicking their legs up in the air like spoiled children. They did a whole autopsy, blaming the audience. What are you blaming us for? You made a bland, uninteresting movie with a couple of leads that are bland to me and uninteresting. The whole setup. Who told you the audience wanted an adaptation of an 80s TV show? It was great. I loved The Fall Guy. But you didn't even adapt it properly. But there was never going to be an audience for it. But they blame us. That's a new thing. Back in the day, a movie flopping was part of the business. I remember my dad I remember being around my dad in meetings with industry people, and it used to be like, we tried, we took a risk, and it failed. They used to shrug their shoulders, they were upset they lost money, but they moved on and promised not to make the same mistakes again. But there wasn't a fear of taking risks with movies and TV shows. It's why we got 24, it's why we got Lost. Lost was one of the most expensive television shows ever made. Game of Thrones is the most expensive, vast, dynamic television show ever made. It could have flopped, it could have had 0 ratings, but it didn't. They took a gamble and it worked. But that show is amazing because they put their hearts and souls and talent into it. It looks vast, it looks beautiful. The dragon CGI is better than any movie today, which is embarrassing for the industry, as a whole. But without those characters, without that storytelling, it would never have worked. And that's what television has lost today. And that's what movies have lost today. Do you really think that Captain America, Brave New World or New World Order or whatever they're calling it today, was made by people who care about that character, who care about Marvel, No. We went from the MCU being this proud thing set up by people who worked with Marvel Comics for years, who loved Marvel, to something that was bought by Disney and changed. And the mentality changed at Marvel Studios from the moment the first Avengers movie made money. From that moment on, every character movie, origin, had to have a cameo, a reference, a post-credit scene. I mean, they always had post-credit scenes. I don't hate the post-credit scenes, but they were becoming false, weren't they? They started off making real movies to making just the other movie. And this is a great example of what's happened in film today. As I say, going to watch a film, whether you were watching it on your 14-inch black and white TV when I was growing up, or you got the rare treat of going to the cinema. I remember going to the cinema for the first time to watch Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It was such a beautiful, special treat. And what you saw on the big screen was amazing. They used to do these little features before the movies. You don't get that anymore. Now, what do you get now? More adverts and trailers. It used to be exciting to see first-run trailers in cinemas. Well, now you don't see first-run trailers in cinemas because they're all online. We killed the business. There's too much demand on the first trailer. And, in a multitude of trailers, we want to know everything about what's going on. So there's no mystique and excitement when we get to see a movie. we kind of have helped kill the momentum and the excitement and the special thing about going to watch a movie. But there's no love for us by them, the people who make the stuff, and we don't trust them anymore. It's about trust. We simply don't trust, people in the industry today. When they do these big things, don't they? I forgot what they're called, right? They went to Germany and they did this film thing, right? And they had a really famous director behind the press conference, behind the microphone. And what did they ask him? About Donald Trump, about politics. No wonder we don't like you. I mean, I'm apolitical. I'm neither on one side or the other. I don't believe in this system, as I've said many times. But why are you asking a film director about Donald Trump? Talk about your film. So, is there anyone left who loves movies anymore? Because why do they keep on asking actors and directors and producers and people in the industry about politics, to give political opinions? What makes someone in the biz kind of qualified to talk about politics? It makes me laugh. That's the problem. I know you all hate Trump. I get it. But how many more times? People want to hear about your movies, your television shows. People want advice about being in the business. People want you to crack a joke. Take yourselves less seriously. I mean, I've been listening to these Game of Thrones DVD commentaries, and the actors are fantastic. They're so funny. They're larking about. It's like listening to commentary with friends, even though they're not my friends. But it's a beautiful thing to see the other side of an actor, not in character. That's why I find DVD commentaries fascinating, because you can learn so much about making this stuff from the stuff that they say, but also it can be very funny. And I think people in the industry should take that moment to humanize themselves and be less serious. It used to be a thing when I was growing up. This is another thing. So we're in a position where the films are not very good anymore. Everything's mid. Someone asked a question on X-Twitter the other day: what's worse, a mid movie or a bad movie? I would prefer a bad movie. Mad, well, they're all mad these days anyway out in Hollywood. But I prefer a bad movie rather than a mid movie. I'll explain why. There's honesty to a bad movie. They're not pretending. A mid movie is pretending to be a great movie. So that's why I prefer a bad movie to a mid movie. But there shouldn't be mid movies. A mid movie is an absolute crime in this art form, because a mid movie means you haven't put everything into making a movie. Think about all those movies in the history of Hollywood, all those great TV shows, those great actors, producers, directors, people who used to love the art form. Most of the people working in this business today do not love this art form and not thinking outside of the box. It's the next reboot, it's the next sequel, it's the next adaptation, and we're bored. Because here's the thing, entertainment industry, we're not falling for it anymore. We want originality. And when you make something original and it's bad, don't expect us to go and watch it and then say, well, you said you wanted to see something original. You've got to put your heart in things. None of you put your hearts and souls into the stuff you're making anymore. That's why it doesn't work. That's why kids are not going to cinemas. We were going to watch Indiana Jones, Star Wars, Superman, Back to the Future, E.T. It was exciting. This is not me looking at things through rose-coloured glasses and saying, well, back in my day, it was much better. No, it was much better. That's the embarrassing things. It's not like the old debate about music, what music was better. There's a generational debate with movies, and there's a real debate. And the kids today are not going to cinemas. They're on YouTube. They're scrolling on TikTok and Snapchat. Because to them, that's more entertaining than going to the cinema and watching an episode of television. Imagine how bad you've ruined this industry that kids would rather be on TikTok then go to the cinema. Think about that for a minute.